Welcome to USA News Today. Please subscribe and check notification box to get all breaking news alert and latest updates on hot cases.
Anybody on the Hill. How much has this bothered him, this whole thing?
You know what? I've watched him, and I've gone down and had dinner in some of the worst days that I have seen that this probe is about him, and he'd be focused on foreign policy. How are we going to get? I don't know how the man goes through it. It will bother you because it would bother anybody. There's times I'm more upset than I ever see him be upset about it. But he's focused, and that's what we need as the president to get this work done.
Well, it's just amazing because McCabe, who launched the investigation, and he's proud of it, believes there's an excellent chance that the President of the United States is a Russian asset working for Vladimir Putin.
That is so. You know, every time one of these individuals is fired because of their own problems, they go out and do a book deal. They look dumber with each interview that they go through. And it's like Comey, now McCabe. It just shows how these individuals tried to run a whole coup on our country and how inept they are, lies, and they get caught up in all their own.
Yeah, I mean, they are caught up in it, and they don't agree with each other. Keep Donald Trump out of it. They don't agree with each other. I'm just astounded by every time there's something about their behavior that's questioned, they don't remember. But there's something in question that they believe the president's done wrong. They could remember verbatim like it was yesterday. Now, the other thing I got to ask you about, this whole Gang of Eight briefing. He evidently went up there in the spring, and Andy McCarthy told me, don't even worry about that. The whole country was aware of some type of Russian connection in the spring. And he briefed the Gang of Eight, and nobody pushed back. You're not in that gang, right? That was Paul Ryan representing the Republicans in the House.
I am in the Gang of Eight now, but I was not then, so I don't have any information about that. But it just seems to me, once again, McCabe just going to some other extreme. I mean, listen, this guy, he doesn't understand why the other players in this don't have the same memory that he has, but that's okay. And somehow when you go through all these individuals, Comey and others, they only take notes when they're with the president, but any other time they're with anybody else, they never do. They're not credible to any of their statements.
Well, is this true, what Trey Gowdy said yesterday, Cut 14?
That Devin and Paul knew about it and had no problem with it. That's exactly what he's getting at. And the reason he's doing it this way is Devin and Paul are not allowed to discuss anything that is said in a Gang of Eight meeting. And McCabe knows that. So he can level the accusation, and Paul and Devin cannot refute him.
Is that true?
Yeah. Listen, there's a reason why you have a Gang of Eight. There's a reason why people can brief you on a lot of different information. But for somebody, just think of his character. Here he is, former acting FBI director, going out in a short amount of time. If he truly believes what he says, why would he ever disrupt the Mueller investigation? Why would he ever say anything? If he is true to his belief that he is an FBI, we all know former FBI members that have worked there. They don't talk about what went on. Those who go and talk about something, 9 times out of 10, it's not true. And they know in a Gang of Eight, no one is going to say anything if it's true or false, what happens and what's talked about inside a Gang of Eight meeting.
So if you're in a Gang of Eight now and you hear an FBI director doing something what deputy director saying something he said, and I asked you what happened, you would have to say, Brian, I can't tell you.
Yeah, I don't.
So why is it okay for him to do it? Why is it okay for him to talk about it and he was there?
It's not okay for him to talk about it, but it goes to what Trey is trying to convey to you. He says something because he knows people in that situation cannot refute him. So he tries to put a falsity, trying to make it real.
I got to bring
it to his character as a former acting FBI director to talk about anything. He's doing this for money, and he's trying to be sensational as he can to sell more books. The same thing Comey did on his book tour, and the more he spoke, the more discredited he became.
All right, a couple of things I want to talk about. The president's also taken on the governor in your state because he got $3 billion to build a high-speed trade, not from this president, but from a previous president. And one of the first things Gavin Newsom said is, it's not working, it's over budget, I'm not building it. And now the president said, give me the money back then. And he said, no, this is all a coincidence. It's a coincidence. It's no coincidence that the day after I'm suing, I joined 15 other governors in suing you for using the emergency declaration at the border. Now you want your money back. What do you have to say about this battle between the governor and the president?
Look, I've been with our governor and with this president. I've watched them work together when it was the fires and others and the president lead, even though they'll have difference of opinion. But to make the accusation that somehow the president is now asking for money back because he's suing, no. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and he's half right. That high-speed rail was never high-speed. It put a bond of $10 billion. It was going in a basis that it could not sustain itself. It was more than $100 billion. It's overdrawn. He should stop the whole thing. So there's still roughly a little less than $1 billion of federal money. Well, if it's not going to be built, why would you spend that federal money on that? So what the president is doing, like he should do, looking at all the entities, if there's places we can save. If you're not going to build it, why would you throw money down something that's not going to happen? I personally think there would be a better use of that money, because that's transportation money, reallocated in California for our highways, or also reallocated. We have a water issue out there. I think that would be the best use of the money. Those are things federal government should do. But it has nothing to do with the other.
Well, I'm telling you what the president just tweeted. California now wants to scale back their already failed fast train project by substantially shortening the distance that it no longer goes from L.A. to San Francisco. And by the way, to San Diego was supposed to go, I thought. A different deal and a record cost overrun. Send the federal government back its money. And you're saying, well, acknowledging you're not using for that, but try to get it re-granted towards something else California needs, right?
Yeah, what I would do if I was Governor Gavin Newsom, and I'll talk to the president about this. This is transportation money that was allocated for the transportation needs of California. They are no longer going to do the high-speed rail. So why should the federal government put any more money into that? But there are still transportation needs in California. So why don't you reallocate that money? We have a highway problem. We have a water issue, that's infrastructure. Reallocate it there. That is a better use, not a waste of tax dollars. And it shouldn't go to a rail that's not going to be high speed, that's not going to be built. That would be a waste of $1 billion.
So I understand politics, and I understand you got to put the other guy down to be successful. Barack Obama to Mitt Romney, we saw that for 2 years. But I don't understand why Sherrod Brown and Bernie Sanders have one thing in common: the most despicable ways to describe the president humanly possible. Cut 31.
I think the current occupant of the White House is an embarrassment to our country. I think he is a pathological liar every day. He is telling one lie or another. And it gives me no pleasure to say that. But I also think he is a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, somebody who is gaining cheap political points by trying to pick on minorities.
I'm just astounded why that's acceptable.
You know, our country is too divided. How many of us have lost friends, not because anything we've done with our friendship, because one party won one election and another party lost another.
Yeah.
We are better than this as Americans. We can have differences of opinion, but one thing that we know our own government is designed to do is to find compromise. You do not win an election just because you tear somebody else down. Tell us what you're for. Tell us what you're going to do. If you don't like our tax system, Bernie, if you want to make it 80%, then tell the American public that, and let the American public decide at the end of the day. But what I want to have happen here, when the election's over, the election should be over, and we should be able to govern. But when you look at people like Tom Steyer, that he just wants to impeach the president for the sake of impeachment. They just continue to drive, and it's the worst part of the human nature to do things like this. This is actually what other countries want to have happen in America. I mean, it goes to your number one issue story that you had today. about an individual that's making up a story that goes to the worst elements of America, right? About racism and others. Well, that just drives the issue further. And that's what's wrong. And this is what they're going on. They're going on the worst elements of individuals, trying to make an election based upon just tearing another person down. Let's start talking about what we're for and make a decision what we want America to look like for the next 4 or 6 years.
That would be interesting because I just cannot imagine Ronald Reagan or Bill Clinton or George Bush, as bad as they were with Bush, they were never this bad. I mean, it's just accepted now you're going to call the president a racist. But a couple of things. Looking at your party, a lot of responsibility is going to go on your shoulders. I read the political stories of all places that the president set up a pretty big machine to get reelected. Brad Pascal in 2020 has assembled corporate offices, got 30 department heads, including people that he knows he can trust like Mark Lauder, 30 full-time staffers on digital data, assembling a surrogate network. They expect to have 100 people full-time by the end of the year, and they're overseeing field deployments across the country. The RNC has invested $10 million already that usually goes to the midterms. Now, what do you need for Republicans to be successful in the House, especially in your state?
Well, first of all, the number one thing you have to do is recruitment. I'll tell you, I happen to be traveling this week. I'll be in California, back in my district tomorrow. But I was in Houston last night to a seat that we lost to Democrats. I was talking to this individual. He went to West Point. His sister went to West Point. His brother went to West Point. His name is Wesley Hunt. He flew Apache helicopters. He comes out. He works in the business community. He and his wife just have a brand new baby, a 10-day-old daughter. It's his biggest excitement. But he watched the country change before his eyes. Now, this is a suburban area. He understands this issue well. He is an individual that I think would be really well served in this. So when I'm going across the country, finding individuals who are willing to serve their country. And you know the thing that I find is some of these very best people to run? This isn't going to be the highest paying job. They're going to take a pay cut. They're going to have to put their family through something much tougher. And this is a basis that